Correspondent for Spectrum News, Kevin Frey. Kevin, we'll just start with what Senator Mike Rounds is saying there. He's trying to explain away, as many other Republican senators are, what Vance is saying. As constitutional law experts say, this is the clearest sign that we might be creeping towards a constitutional crisis.
Yeah, it's like, are we approaching the break glass moment, or have we already arrived? And one of the things that I've been keeping an eye on is exactly what do Democrats think is the possible route to circumnavigate this? I promise I had no predilections as to what J.D. Vance was going to tweet over the weekend, but I started asking some lawmakers about this last week. Congressman Gregory Meeks basically suggested that they're going to have to depend on Republicans to work with them to try to hold back on the Trump administration. And given what we have seen over the past few weeks on Capitol Hill, as Republicans have very much just fallen in line behind Trump, and obviously this is a very different Republican Party than it was 8 years ago when Trump first arrived, it seems questionable whether or not that would happen. Other person I asked about this was Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, who, of course, leads the Democratic coalition in the House. And I essentially asked him, what is the game plan if Trump does not abide by a court order? What do you do then? And his response was that this is something that litigants have to confront all the time, and that he expects the judiciary will continue to hold. That's maybe a little bit of sunny optimism from Hakeem Jeffries that you have to not navigate because of the way Hakeem Jeffries tends to talk in code. But obviously, there are a lot of outstanding questions as to what the next steps are in this sort of scenario.
Because I think it's important. You see Tommy Tuberville there. It's not shocking that he would take the side of the administration, of J.D. Vance, backing him up. But how are Republicans explaining this kind of a comment away when it's really clear that Vance, who is a lawyer, he went to Yale, is basically saying the courts don't establish the limits of executive power, except they do?
Yeah, I mean, they're essentially brushing this away and trying to minimize and downplay it, while at the same time suggesting that these courts are overstepping themselves, and thus they're the ones that are causing the interference here.
Yeah, and then, of course, we have the ongoing confirmation battles that are also showing just the way that people are falling in line. So I think you're right. This was always going to be the test of this Congress, is they are so much more MAGA. One of the ways that they are proving that is as we see federal workers being guided towards a potential buyout, with looming firings also being threatened. You've been following the reaction there from federal workers. I mean, what are you hearing from them?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think is important to highlight is that we think of federal workers and we think D.C. bubble. No, I mean, they're across the entire country. There's 50,000 plus in the state that I cover very closely, which is New York.
Yeah.
And so I've had a chance to speak with some of them anonymously over the last couple of days because they are afraid of retribution, plain and simple. And one received a paid leave. Didn't really know why. It happened late on a Friday night. They believe it's because they took a class on diversity. They don't have a DEI position, but they described it as a legal retribution. Another one who is currently working says that since January 23rd, my blood pressure has been consistently high because of the barrage and the concern as to what comes next. Do I get a buyout? Are they offering me a buyout? This one said they're not taking a buyout because they have a kid and they need to get them to school.
And also the buyouts. We've had multiple Democratic lawmakers on basically warning, hey, we also don't know if the government's going to shut down mid-March.
As of a week from now.
This also might not be as solid of a deal as they're trying to tell you that it is. Kevin Frey, thank you for joining us on all of it.
No problem.